Hello. Yeah, sorry, I startled everybody. My name is Drew Knobloch, and I'd like to welcome you to the inaugural event of our new McHenry County Events Planning Committee. Thanks for coming. Thanks. Thanks for coming out on this rainy weekday night to play an active role in your government. McHenry County spans 2 congressional districts, and we're pleased to have with us tonight 5 candidates who are running to challenge the incumbent representatives for both the 6th and the 14th district. The questions for the panel tonight were submitted by the members of the hosting organizations. There were many great questions submitted, and I wish we had time to get to all of them. But we selected several questions from different topic areas, and we hope that there will be several that are of interest to you personally. I'm pleased to welcome our moderator, fresh from teaching American government class, Nancy Zettler. Nancy is an educator, an attorney, an activist, and the senior editor of the goldpinindependent.com, a progressive blog that covers issues of government and politics for Kane and McHenry counties. Please give a warm welcome. Nancy, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Drew. Thank you so much, everybody, and thank you again for coming tonight. We're really excited to be hosting this first forum with some amazing candidates. I have a little housekeeping to take care of, so let me get through that, and then we can hit the questions. First, I would like to thank the hosting groups of this event, Action for Better Tomorrow, McHenry County. Action for Better Tomorrow is determined to make a difference, not just through the action, but through better action. Action for Better Tomorrow takes a different approach to civic engagement through training, seminars, and they work to empower their members, all of us, to be more informed, involved, prepared, and ready to create a better future world for future generations. Another host is Indivisible Illinois 14. Indivisible is a group of concerned citizens who are dedicated to creating an informed and active electorate in Illinois 14th Congressional District. We are dedicated to holding our representatives accountable for providing exceptional representation for their constituents. Last but not least, McHenry County Progressives, formerly known as McHenry County for Bernie Sanders, is a grassroots movement to advance progressive policies and supportive progressive candidates in McHenry County, Illinois. We also like to thank our sponsors, Heroic Media Group, LLC. Heroic provides powerful business solutions for growth as a full-service marketing firm catering to small and mid-sized companies, including strategic planning and outsourced marketing services, including social media management, public relations, image branding, and customized Adobe training. And for full disclosure, we would like you all to know that Heroic right now is working with Jim Walz. He's a client of theirs. And last but not least, Trinity SS Wellness. Trinity offers coaching, professional consulting, marketing, and advertising services to assist individuals, couples, and business owners with the insight they need to move forward in healthy and productive ways, leading to improvements in their lives and relationships. Can we get a round of applause for our hosts and our sponsors? Okay, so I'd like to introduce to you tonight's candidates. Candidates from Illinois 14 and Illinois 6. Illinois 14 candidates are running against Randy Hultgren, and candidates from Illinois 6 are running against Peter Roscom. The candidates running in the 14th are Victor Swanson and Jim Walz. And the candidates running in the 6th are Amanda Howland, Kelly Mazeski, and Jennifer Zordani. I'm sorry, Jennifer Zordani. Tell you a little bit about their backgrounds. Victor grew up in Yorkville, where his family resided for over 100 years. He joined the United States Navy, earning the Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Award medal. He holds a master's degree in curriculum and instruction and has been a teacher for over 17 years. Victor's wife, Karen, is also a teacher, and they have 2 children in Batavia Public Schools. Jim Walz. Jim has lived in Gurnee for 21 years and works as an outside sales representative for a regional wholesale distributor. Jim met his wife Rhonda, a teacher, while attending Western Illinois University and has been married for 29 years. They have 2 children, both graduates of Warren Township High School, where Jim now serves as a school board member. That's District 121. Helping with 2 complete solar array projects for sustainability. And hopefully we'll hear a little bit more about that tonight too. Amanda Howland has dedicated her life to further social justice, inclusion, and equality. Amanda is a 2-term elected trustee at the College of Lake County. She is an attorney, former special education teacher, and administrator. She earned a BS in education, a master's in psychology, and a master's in educational administration, and a Juris Doctorate. Amanda is a 2011 graduate of Loretta Durbin's Illinois Women's Institute for Leadership. She has lived in Lake Zurich with her husband for more than 20 years. She's a nationally ranked gymnastics judge, longtime member of the Sierra Club, and a member of the Lake Zurich Area Chamber of Commerce. Kelly Mazeski. Kelly grew up in Indianapolis, a few blocks from Indianapolis Motor Speedway, where her parents worked for Western Electric. She graduated from St. Mary's College in Notre Dame and became a financial advisor for an investment firm. Kelly is also a community leader, serves as planning commissioner for Barrington Hills. Kelly and her husband Conrad have been Barrington Hill residents for 25 years and have 2 children, both Barrington High School graduates. Last but not least, Jennifer Zordani. Jennifer grew up in western suburbs and resides in Clarendon Hills. She has a BA in economics from U of C and a law degree from IIT. She began her career at Ungaretti and Harris in 1995, forming Zordani Law in 2012. Zordani recognizes our common goal of providing fiscal responsibility, social progress, and stable communities where everyone has an opportunity to thrive. Then on the programs, you can find more about where you can find more information about each of the candidates on their websites. Everybody give a round of applause for our candidates. So at this point, we're going to give each candidate the opportunity to give us a little bit of more background on themselves. So each of you have 5 minutes to give a statement. I'm going to start with Jennifer.
Well, thank you. Thank you for
You're probably going to want to grab the mic, Jen.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Verizon.
Yes. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to be here with you tonight. As you heard, I'm in Clarendon Hills. I'm a resident of the district. Clarendon Hills is at the southeast corner of our crescent-shaped district. I've lived there a few years. I moved back after my sister and her kids moved in with me, after my mom had moved in with me, so we're a 3-generation household. Clarendon Hills and the other towns in the 6th district exemplify to me what is strong about the people in our state. We have a lot of hardworking people. We have a lot of people who value education. We know that social progress is so important, and we want to provide stability not just in our district, but throughout the region and throughout the state and throughout the country. I often say that I do think the 6th district combines the perfect balance of social progress and fiscal responsibility. I want to keep fighting for those goals. I know at this point in time, we are struggling to defy these Republican stereotypes of Democrats as people who don't work hard. The current incumbent tells a story when he's in his fundraising groups where he talks about Democrats wanting everybody else's piece of the pie. And it's insulting. I say Democrats want to make sure that everybody has access to the same ingredients to make their own pies. And the Republicans are cutting everybody out of access to the things that give us the ability to thrive. I want to work to fix health care. We know that the education policies that are coming out of the Trump administration are far off the mark. We know that he's trying to destroy civil rights. He's trying to divide us. There are a lot of actions that we're going to need to take in 2019 after we get Democrats back in control of the House. And I want to work hard to make this district, to represent this district and to make this district proud of who they have in Washington again. Thank you.
Kelly?
Hi, my name is Kelly Mazeski, and I have lived in the Barrington area for 25 years. I like to be upfront about why I'm running. I, 2 years ago, finished treatment for breast cancer, radiation, and chemotherapy, and lost my insurance while I was going through it. My daughter, at the same time, also had a very serious pre-existing condition that required doctors at Mayo Clinic. It's a very stressful time in our house, like it has been, I'm sure, for many people here who've experienced similar issues. I've gone through 3 insurance companies in 3 years. I bought it on the exchange as well. So I'm running because I want to hold Peter Roskam accountable for voting to pay more for less coverage, pay more and get less for our health care. And he's done it not once, but twice. So healthcare is a personal issue to me, and I want to make sure that we all don't go through sleepless nights and near tears on the kitchen counter because we're worried about keeping our doctors, staying in network, and being able to afford our bills. I did grow up in Indianapolis, and it was my grandmother who worked at Western Electric. 3 out of my 4 grandparents worked in factories. They were blue-collar workers. My mom and dad wanted more than anything for my sister and I to be able to go to college because they weren't able to afford going to college. So fortunately, my dad saved enough money. I went in and got a college loan with him when it was much more affordable and was able to graduate from St. Mary's. At that time, since then, college has gone exponentially up in cost and made it unaffordable for most people. And I strongly believe in education. It's made a huge difference in my life, and I want to make sure that everybody has the same opportunities that I've had and can get proper training for jobs. Education is key. So it's very important to me. When I graduated, I was trained as a scientist. Science is under attack right now, and it's nauseating to me. I went to work as a product development chemist, and I believe in climate change. So, thank you. And I was recently, about 4 years ago, elected to the Illinois Environmental Council because of my commitment to the environment. I did energy and environmental policy outreach for the Obama campaign in 07 and 08, and I'm a longtime Sierra Club member and do many things to this day in the city and out where I live, supporting the environment and open space. And our EPA is under attack right now, 31% budget cut projected. And I don't know about you, but I remember, I mentioned this last week for you here, when Lake Erie was on fire and there was smog in our city. So we need to protect our drinking water and our clean air. And we also need to create jobs while doing that. Illinois passed the Future Energy Jobs Act, which will provide $750 million in job training in clean energy jobs. And it will provide the training for 10,000 workers in wind and solar energy. That's the kind of plan we should have nationally to provide jobs and move forward with the clean energy country. And again, all of that is under attack by our current president and administration. So those are the primary reasons I'm running. And I really hope that I can earn your support, and I will be dedicated to you as I have been for 20 years in Barrington, where I've served as a plan commissioner, zoning commissioner, and plan commissioner. So I'll work hard for you and hope I can earn your support. Thank you very much.
Amanda.
I hate having the microphone leaning over like that. There are people out there, right? I feel like a deer in the headlights. Raise your hand. How many of you are in the 6th district with Peter Roskam? He's a former law school classmate of mine. Obviously, I am Amanda Howland, and I'm running for Congress against Peter Roskam because I believe that I can make critical changes at this time in our history when so much is going wrong. It's an important time in terms of being able to take back the House, being able to work with both sides of the party in order to get things done. I ran for this seat when I was recruited by the state Democrats in the last cycle because there was no one else available, no one else would step up to run. In spite of the fact that once I started running, I was running on my own without any financial support and was outspent 30-1 by Peter, I made a really strong showing, built a really strong base of people, and planted the seeds to make this race go forward this time around. Those of you who follow politics, I'm sure you know that Dick Durbin and Tammy Duckworth and Raja Krishnamurthy and others have all had to run more than once if they're taking on an incumbent. It's not the same as if it's an open seat because you have to get that base and you have to build name recognition. I've been working in this district and working in the political area of this district since the Carrie Edwards campaign when I first volunteered as an election protection attorney and was a surrogate speaker for their campaign. I've worked with Melissa Bean's campaign. I've worked with Tammy Duckworth's campaign. I've been committed to the democratic progressive principles that I think we need to get back on track. They're way too far out to the right. Excuse me? Oh, okay. I think that the only force more powerful than money, which is killing us right now, thank you to Citizens United, which was an absolutely ridiculous decision, is those of you who are mobilizing as a group of people at the grassroots level. That is the most important thing for this race coming up for 2018 election. I know you heard about my background and my degrees, but let me explain to you, that did not come easy, and that's another reason why I'm running. I was raised by a single mother. I was 5, my sister was just a baby when she and my father split. She worked for General Motors as a secretary, and I can remember her going to work with holes in the bottom of her high-heeled shoes so that my sister and I could have the clothes that we needed, and she used to make most of them for us so that we would be presentable and we could go to school. When she married my stepfather, he did not believe that girls needed to go to college. And so when it came time for me to finish high school and get a higher education, I was told, if you want to do that, fine, but you're going to have to pay for it. I was able to use work study, scholarships, grants, and loans to put myself through not 1 degree, but 4 degrees. And that opportunity doesn't exist today for students. I'm an elected trustee at the College of Lake County in my second 6-year term. I was board chairman for 2 of the past 6 years, and I'm the only candidate who's been elected county-wide in the 3rd largest county in the state of Illinois. We've got about 80,000 people in our population for College of Lake County, and that's about the size of the 6th district. And in both of those races, I was the top vote getter out of any other candidate who ran. So I've been out there, I'm visible, people know me. I want to fight for health care. I want to fight for women's issues. I want to fight for our environment. I want to fight for education, affordable for everybody. I want to fight for retraining for jobs. I want to fight for new jobs. Those are all things that I'm passionate about, and I'm hoping that as we move forward, that I will be elected through the primary because I believe I can beat Peter Roskam this time around, and I know he's afraid of me because he won't debate me.
Victor.
As Nancy stated earlier, I'm a high school teacher. I've been a high school teacher for the last 17 years. And sitting behind this table, I have a teacher friend who says you can't cage the tiger. And I kind of know how my students feel sometimes now, because as a teacher, you don't sit behind a table often. And sitting and talking to groups like this, I feel kind of like a caged tiger. But I'm going to deal with it and bear with it. So a little bit more about me. Out of high school, I've led an entire life of service. I joined the Navy right out of high school. I served in the Navy for 3 years. I earned a Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Medal. and I was honorably discharged. I went to Illinois State University on the Montgomery GI Bill and the Illinois Veterans Grant, and then I started teaching at a school that was about 15% low income at the time. 17 years later, we are now at about 45% low income. This school that I teach at is not in the 14th district, otherwise I'd have a lot more volunteers. But if you take a look at the other schools in the 14th district, you will see the similar trend. All of the schools in the 14th district have either doubled, if not tripled, their low-income population. And these schools are not equipped to handle this. And there's something wrong with our system when we go in 15 years, 17 years, from 20% low income in Harvard to 60% low income in Harvard. And we need to fix that. And what Randy Hultgren and what the Republicans are doing is not helping. There's a greater divide between the rich and the poor, and we're going to get into that more later. But I'm also running for my mother. My mother owned a small business in Naperville. It went bankrupt because someone who ran a larger business took her money and ran. And she was low on the totem pole in terms of being paid back on the bankruptcy list, so she never got that money back. We got that information actually when we were in Disney World for a family vacation, as a side note. I'm running for my father, who's a recovered alcoholic and a person who has Parkinson's disease and relies heavily on Medicare and Medicaid and goes to Rush Hospital every 3 months for treatment for his Parkinson's. And he would not have been he would not have been alive today if he did not have Medicare and Medicaid to take care of him when he decided he needed help for his treatment for alcoholism. I'm running for my sister, who was born, or at the age of 10, found out she had diabetes. And she now has a good job that has good insurance, but if she ever were to leave that job, she would not have insurance under the Republican plan. I'm running for my son, who at dinner one day said, "Dad, what happened to the Republicans? They had Lincoln, and now they have Trump." And I said, "You've hit the nail on the head. That's exactly the problem today. The Republican Party has changed in the 40, 50 years I've been alive. 40 years, but the 50 years around. I'm not that old yet. I'm running for my niece, who's a special needs student up in Wisconsin, who would be devastated by the cuts to Medicaid, by the Republican plan. I'm running for my students who need free and reduced lunch, who need universal pre-K, and who need food on weekends, and who need someplace to go because their home is not a safe home or is not a place of love and caring. And so that's why I'm running for Congress. As a teacher, I see it every day, and I see the need. And one of my father's favorite quotes was, "Silence is agreement." And Randy Hultgren has been silent. And to me, that means that Randy Hultgren is agreeing with what is happening in Washington, D.C. And I cannot stand by while there is silence with Randy Hultgren. So I need to take him on.
And Jim?
Thank you so much for Indivisible Illinois 14 Group, McHenry County Progressives, and the Action for a Better Tomorrow. And by the time this is all done, you'll feel like you were 10 years older than you are now, Victor. I'll tell you that right now. But we are in the fight of our lives. There is so much at stake, and I'm not ready to give up. And by the looks of things, by the size of this crowd, it doesn't look like you're ready to give up either. Am I correct? I mean, there are so many topics, so many issues at stake, and I know we're going to be getting into some of those later in the program. But the health of our democracy, the health of our environment, and quite frankly, the health of each other is at stake. We are woefully underrepresented in Washington to the point that you and I are not represented at all. It seems like only the big moneyed interests get any of all the attention, and that doesn't seem to be quite right to me. We need a representative in Washington who will call for the public financing of elections. We need to get money out of politics. Corporations are not people, and money is not free speech. As stewards of the earth, it is our moral responsibility to reduce our dependence on fossil fuels, and we need to reduce our carbon footprint. That's why I'm an advocate for an all-in, all-the-above approach to incentivize solar, wind, geothermal, and everything beyond that. Who here believes that climate change is one of our major crises of this day? I do as well, and that's why when I make it to Washington, I am going to propose legislation that will incentivize the use of renewable energies. Again, we are stewards of the earth. We must take care of it. With the recent passage of the health care bill out of the House of Representatives that's now being discussed in the Senate, now is the time that we fight for Medicare for all, single-payer health care. Because health care is a right and not a privilege. The only health care that health insurance companies provide is stress. And when I make it to Washington, D.C., I will push for legislation that reduces the age of Medicare. I will introduce legislation that allows us to negotiate pharmaceutical prices on behalf of Medicare, just as we do with Medicaid and the Veterans Administration. But again, those are just three of the issues at stake. There are so many more. How did I get to this place? Occupationally, I've been in sales for 20 plus years. I made the mistake 15 years ago of turning off sports and music and turning on current events. And as I tortured myself listening to a variety of different radio talk shows, I came across one of the people that changed my life, other than my wife, of course, and the birth of my children. The tagline at the end of every show: democracy starts with you. It's not a spectator sport. Tag, you're it. I knew at that point in time my life changed both civically and politically. Personally, I wanted to wait till my children both graduated high school. I had left my previous job before that because I worked at a golf course, didn't want to miss out on my kids growing up. Also on that show, I was introduced to somebody who taught me to believe if you want to see positive change, you have to be that change. And his name is Bernie Sanders. And as a side issue, earlier today, or yesterday I should say, I was graced with the endorsement of the Our Revolution Illinois Bernie-crats, so I thank them for their endorsement. But there are so many things at stake, and that's why I'm running for the 14th district. Washington is populated by too many politicians and not enough representatives. I promise the people of the 14th district that I will be a representative. Politicians, again, are too densely populated in Washington. I thank you so much for your time. Have a great evening. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Jim. Okay, so we're going to start the policy question portion of the program, and I'm going to, in an effort to give everybody a chance to be the first on each, I'm going to start the first question with Jim, and then I'm going to bounce around a little bit. So why don't we just go like Jim, like circle like this, okay? So no matter where I start, keep the circle going, okay? Jim, starting with you. Everyone can agree now that healthcare is complicated. What are your plans for reforming the American healthcare and health insurance industries?
Well, I did touch on that briefly in my opening statement. It is unconscionable that in America, the world's greatest country, the world's wealthiest country in the world, that we are the only industrialized nation that does not provide basic health care to all of their citizens. And I truly believe that the Affordable Care Act, it had its imperfections, for sure, but it was a step in the right direction. And that which we see coming out of the Republican Congress, to me, is immoral on so many different levels. I was raised Catholic. We have to take care of our sick, our poor, and our hungry. And to cater to the avarice and greed of big pharmaceutical companies, big banks, again, is unconscionable, immoral. And when I make it to Washington, D.C., I can assure you that I will do everything that I can to promote and push single-payer health care.
So, Jennifer.
You need the mic.
I am naturally pretty loud, so I'm not sure I do, but I will use the mic just to be certain. I think we have to focus on 2019 and what we can do immediately, because we know that even if the Republicans do not get through wealth care, they have kneecapped the Affordable Care Act. They have damaged health care in America. So as an immediate goal, I want to make sure that we pay the insurance companies for the risks that they did take under the Affordable Care Act. We know that President Obama passed the Affordable Care Act as a major piece of legislation, and typically with every big piece of legislation, legislators then take time to fix it. And the Republicans sat on their hands and did nothing, and then more importantly, they failed to pay the insurance companies. Now, the insurance companies, we can vilify on a lot of fronts, but when we didn't honor our obligations to pay them for taking the risks that were indeterminate, that is the Republicans' fault. So I also want to hear, if the Republicans want to talk about maintaining a multi-payer system, what are the fixes to keeping private health care? We're not hearing anything other than getting the pharmaceutical companies in check, lowering Medicare down in age. That's a terrific idea. But the Republicans are saying, let's not even fund Medicaid. And we know that the health insurance companies don't even want long-term care on their books. There is a completely unrealistic agenda among the Republicans, and it is to destroy government. It is not small government, it is to destroy government. So I want to get in and fix the Affordable Care Act as the first thing we do to try to get people stable again.
Me?
Yes, sorry.
Okay, thanks, Nancy. I would like to see our country get Medicare for all. That's the direction I want to see us move. And right now, we have a representative who has voted twice, as I said before, for what I consider, again, an immoral, inhumane bill that puts Americans, the most vulnerable in our country, at risk. The deep cuts to Medicaid right now would affect people in nursing homes, disproportionately affects women, children who use Medicaid. All these areas, people in our country are at risk right now. So I want to make sure that, as I said before, we have health care. You know, other countries, all the other developed countries in the world that have universal health care have half the cost that we do in health care costs. And I think we need to negotiate drug prices. We need to look at the costs it takes for basic procedures, the hospital costs when you, for admittance. Those are things that I want to look at and change. So that is where I want to see us get, is Medicare for all. We need to really go at this hard. We have to win the House back, first of all, to do this. And then we have to get back the Senate, and we need to get a Democratic administration in place, and then we can do this. So I just want to say, get out there make a difference. You're all out there. The biggest issue in this district is health care. Let's keep the work up that you're out there, and let's get it for all. Thank you.
Amanda.
I would be surprised if there are many people left in the conversation who aren't in favor of single-payer health care. How many people, just as a question here, listen to National Public Radio and know the name Dr. Quentin Young? Quentin was a proponent of single-payer health care at least 45 years ago before it was ever on anybody's radar. Quentin is my uncle. He passed away a year ago. His fight was the fight to make sure that everyone had affordable health care, and if anyone else wanted to pay more for extra coverage, which is what Medicare does now, you have your Part B, you still get all of your basic health care with access to all of your physicians. You're not limited in terms of what the insurance companies are doing now, where they are trying to pigeonhole you into certain doctors that you may not even want to see. I think that we must move to a single-payer healthcare position where you have a government agency or a public agency that controls the costs, that manages the financial issues, but yet lets you deal with the private hospitals and doctors, because then we can negotiate healthcare costs, we can negotiate prescription drug costs. Why are our prescription drugs going over to Canada and other countries and being sold for half the price that we pay here? Because we don't negotiate costs. I'm a cancer survivor also, and I just had surgery last year in December to remove a kidney. And I can tell you that when I saw the bills that came through my provider and saw how they were charging these outrageous fees, and yet then the insurance company was saying, oh, well, we'll cut X amount of dollars off that and we'll pay you this. Well, why are they padding their fees to begin with and charging that amount so that the insurance companies can make their profit? It's been proven in 2015, our healthcare costs were 2 times more than 35 other countries in the world, and Medicare administrative costs are about 1/6 of what the private industry is charging right now.
Victor.
I have a feeling towards the end of the evening, the person who gets to answer last is just going to go, yes.
Yes. I agree.
What they said. I do support Medicare for all. I have supported Medicare for all. I believe health care is a right. It's not a privilege. As Jim said, we are the greatest country, the wealthiest country in the nation, and yet we struggle to take care of the most neediest people in our society. And that's disturbing. I was at a group in St. Charles called We Can Lead Change last week, and they had a vice president from one of the larger hospital groups in the area there talking about the Affordable Care Act and the Republican Care Act from the perspective of the hospital. And he went through a really good description of both, and then somebody asked a question about Medicare for all, and he said he doesn't think that we're ready for that yet. And so we need to make sure that we are ready when we pass Medicare for all, that our system is able to handle it. You can see that with our Obamacare system, the system when it first went off, when it first went online, the government wasn't quite ready to handle all the online features of it. But we do need to ensure that when we do go for Medicare for all, that our system is able to handle that, and that we have enough doctors and enough people to take care of those people that need the health care, because it's much cheaper to be preventive in care than it is to be reactive in care. So, thank you.
And Jim. Oh, you started, I'm sorry. Okay, see, my whole system's all messed up. It's Drew's fault. Okay, so we're going to move on to education, and Kelly, we're going to start this one with you, okay? So again, Kelly, Amanda, around. All right, Kelly, how would you address the rising costs of college education and student loan debt?
Well, as I mentioned before, education has gone exponentially up. I remember when I went and got a student loan with my dad and signed the dotted line, and I could actually afford to pay back my student loan. That's nearly impossible for kids today. You know, several of my kids' friends are saddled with student debt. So what I'd like to see going forward is I'm intrigued by the idea of free state college and free community college. I want to be clear about that. But right now, I think that we need to have competitive loan rates when students get loans. Right now, they're not. They pay much more for that money than you do to buy a house or for cars. It's not competitive. It's not fair. And these are the kids and the adults who want to go back to school that we should be investing in. We should be investing in people. So that's one thing. I think we should also be able to have the program that allows you to pay back your loan based as a percentage of your income. So again, it doesn't eat up everything you make when you're working, your income. So we need to have a program like that. And then we have to watch out for-profit schools like Trump University that promise you a degree and an education, and then you pay loads of money for it. Then you graduate and find out, oh my God, this degree, whatever it may be in, is worthless. And then you're saddled again with all this debt. So those are the things that I would work on to make college accessible. I think we also need to make sure we have community college and job skills training programs. I'd like to see partnering between corporations and community schools to provide the skills that incoming corporations need for their workers so that these people can work and make a living and be productive in our society. Thank you.
Amanda. Go ahead.
This way?
Yep.
Okay, just checking. As a community college trustee, obviously this hits really close to home for me because I see what has happened with our students, and especially with the state budget and the lack of our state funding, which means that all of our federal funding is also held up because they won't release it till the state releases it. A number of things should happen. First of all, there's the American College Promise Act that we as trustees have been lobbying Washington, D.C. for every year when we go for our National Legislative Summit. And that is to expand Pell Grants. We want better college tax credits for families. One of the things that they need to do for student loans is get away from these guaranteed student loans because they charge a much higher interest rate. If they would go to direct student loans, there would be a much lower interest rate. Another thing that we can do is let students renegotiate their interest rates. And what the government has done right now, and what my opponent voted for in the last cycle, was absolutely no, can you reduce your student loan rate by going in and working with a bank because the banks are making too much profit off that. He would not vote for a bill that would allow that, which is absolutely ridiculous. I can tell you from experience what we're doing at the College of Lake County, and I think it should be done nationally. We do have private-public partnerships with businesses so that businesses in Lake County come to us and say, here are the jobs we need people trained for. Can you provide the programs that we need? And how can we help you provide the programs that we need? And they are actually paying for adults to come back into college and get a certificate or a degree in various work situations that they would not be able to get otherwise, and that helps everybody. So they get an apprenticeship and they're able to advance their career once their other career was phased out. So there is a lot that we need to do at the post-secondary level. It's critical. We also are making college free for certain students meeting certain conditions. New York just did it, several other states are doing it, and several colleges right here in community colleges right here in Illinois are doing it.
Victor.
Part of the large problem with student loan debt and the rising cost of college is that students aren't allowed to renegotiate their percentage rates. So we need to allow students to renegotiate their percentage rates. We also need to expand student loan forgiveness. So, for example, if you are a teacher in a predominantly low-income school, you can get some of your student loan forgiven. So we need to expand those programs. We need to expand if you join AmeriCorps or the Peace Corps, there is a part of that forgives some of your student loan. So we can expand that. So we can also get students into service for our country and for the world, and get them to forgive some of their student loans. So also if they're into some other field that is needed, we can have student loan forgiveness for those fields as well. So thinking about expanding student loan forgiveness for different fields that are needed in society and that are helpful in society and that are serviceable to the community. That's one thing that I would like to see, and that's one thing that I would push. That's it.
Jim?
I agree with everything that has been mentioned up till now. We need to invest in our intellectual infrastructure. We need to invest in our students, our teachers, and the assets that each district has. As a school board member at Warren Township High School, I've been leading the charge on 2 different solar array projects, one on campus and one off. As a school district, we own 100 acres of land, and we're talking to county officials about putting solar farm on 60 of those acres. Progress is not as quick as I'd like. Wish it was done yesterday, but it will happen, I hope. In addition to the refinancing of student loan debt, when my wife and we graduated Western Illinois 30 plus years ago, my wife's payment was like $64 a month. I know what I pay for my children's education right now per month. It exceeds a lot of people's mortgages and their rents. And what that does, that takes money out of the economy. Because when you put money in the pockets of people who spend it, you create jobs. Everybody in this room, we are the job creators. The Republican Party has done a tremendous job of hijacking the English language over the last 30 plus years. We are the job creators. And we need to put money in the pockets of people who spend it. And one way to do that is, it was mentioned earlier, is to refinance, just as we allow people to refinance their mortgages. Thank you.
Jennifer?
So I think some of these education issues that we've been talking about reveal that our legislators have not been attentive enough to brewing problems. So when we talk about expanding Pell Grants for students, we know that when you expand Pell Grants, typically the universities also increase their tuitions. So that money gets eaten away by these increased costs. And I think we need to be looking at our universities, public and private, and where we're giving these Pell Grants and the effectiveness of them, because we have been trying to give students loans and we haven't given them enough, but every time we try to expand, then that gets eaten away. And we need legislators to pay attention to that. On the for-profit schools and the abuses that have gone on in that industry, we need to keep paying attention to that. Student loan servicing, there's an effort in the administration now to consolidate the servicers, which is a disservice to the students who need to repay those loans. I absolutely agree that the rates that students get for their school loans is theft. When we can give big banks money out of the Federal Reserve for 0% to charge students well above 5 and 6%, it's an awful situation, and our legislators need to address that. They need to be thoughtful about it. The student loan forgiveness programs that that allow students to relieve their debt if they've worked in certain industries, that legislation was poorly drafted. It's a bipartisan bill that was poorly drafted that puts students in limbo now. So they work in industries, nonprofit, or where they think they're going to relieve their debt, and it doesn't happen. We need to demand more from our legislators.
Thank you. Now we're going to move to starting with Amanda, and the question to you, Amanda, to start out is, should the government take an active role ensuring all workers receive a living wage, and should they be retraining workers who are in shrinking industries?
I think it's in the best interests of our country as a whole that everyone is able to earn a living wage and that everyone is able to be productive in society. I think we need to make sure that we have a trained workforce, and that means looking at the jobs that are going to be coming in the future and making sure that we're educating people for those. And that could be solar power, wind power, robotics, mechatronics, Those are all fields that we're going to need people in as we continue to move forward. And the government should be behind and backing those programs to make sure that we continue to move forward and continue to be a world leader in the technology and in the job issues. As far as the minimum wage is concerned, I believe we need to raise the minimum wage nationally. I don't believe that any worker should be asked to live on something that is less than $15 an hour. I know that there are difficult things that can be involved for certain businesses in trying to provide that, but there are also ways that we can work around it, and I think it's extremely important that we at least look at that as a goal and move in that direction so that no family has to have both parents out working 2 jobs while the kids are at home and nobody's taking care of them.
Victor?
So as an educator, I've found that our schools are not really preparing students for anything other than going to college. We have this demand since No Child Left Behind, and then we've got a new one with Obama called Rise to the Top, and that was an idea that every student has to meet a certain standard, and if they don't meet a certain standard, you're considered a failing school. And so what that has pushed schools to do is it's pushed schools to get rid of shop classes, job training classes that students liked, loved, and were interested in. So now you have a kid who hates math, who's stuck in 2 math classes because he doesn't meet a standard for math. Guess what? He hates math even more. You have a kid who doesn't like English, so he's stuck in 2 English classes, and he can't take that elective class of shop or wood shop or electronics or art, and now he hates English even more. So we as a government need to stop telling everyone and stop punishing schools for their test scores and start looking at what is going to best prepare students for the future, for their future lives. And job training is one of those things that will prepare them. We need to bring back auto shopping classes. We need to bring back robotics, bring robotics into schools, into high schools now. The school I work at is starting this class called Incubator. Is anyone familiar with Incubator? So Incubator brings in entrepreneurs and they come up with an idea, and it's an entrepreneurial class, and it's great. And it's going to work really well with our school because our school is going to come up with some great ideas, and they're going to have links to the community, and they're going to use that to come up with some job skills that they're going to need in life.
Jim?
You know, Victor mentioned students taking English. I think Donald Trump took Russian when he was in grade school. Living wage, I most assuredly believe that, as I mentioned in a previous answer, we need to put money in the pockets of people who spend it. When our manufacturing jobs, they've been shipped overseas over the last 30+ years because of our trade policies. All of our trade policies have done in succeeding is export good union-paying jobs while importing unemployment and lower wages. When a factory worker loses his job and that business is the hub of a small-town community, what are those people supposed to do when they have worked there for decades, generational employment at a manufacturing facility? Their only recourse is to go to a McDonald's or Walmart, falling below the poverty line, not making the wages that they were accustomed to trying to raise a family of 4. I'm tired of the corporate welfare that we give corporations in America. And I'll do everything that I can to put as many people over that poverty line into the middle class so that they can live the American dream. That's what America is all about. Our middle class has been pulverized over the last 30+ years with trickle-down economics, and it's got to stop. And I will, again, do everything that I can to push wages as high as we can and bring back manufacturing jobs. We used to be the #1 exporter of finished goods. Now we're the greatest exporter of raw materials because we import our goods. It's got to change. Thank you.
Jennifer?
When we talk about a living wage or the fight for 15, when we talk about living wage or the fight for 15, This is a point where I have to say thank you to progressives for getting that discussion started. Because when we looked at that issue, even as recently as 5 years ago, it was considered radical. And people said, well, it's going to shock the economy. And we know that there's jurisdictions that have put in place the $15 an hour minimum wage and even higher, and there has not been shocks to the economy. So we have to be sensitive to the effect it could have on certain businesses, small businesses, and we have to be attentive to that. But in terms of pushing for a living wage, a sustainable minimum wage across the country, absolutely I'm in favor of that. I do think about retraining workers with the consideration that when Trump told the coal miners he was going to bring back those jobs, he was absolutely misleading them. The coal industry jobs had been declining for ages. We know there's terrific jobs in renewables. We know those jobs are better paying. There's a lot of training available. But part of the issue is mobility and where our workforce lives. So what we do need to think about is infrastructure and transportation and ways that people can get across the region or move more easily. I don't know that that will happen. So job retraining programs have to focus on how we get that information to the workers and how we move industries to places that need jobs.
Kelly.
I'm going to try it this way. I also believe in supporting a living wage. Most people earning a minimum wage are adults over the age of 18, and in that category, most of them are women. So this living wage would help primarily women and provide them ability to support their families and find a way and keep contributing to society. I was alarmed the other day when I saw a news report saying how retail jobs are shrinking as our economy is growing. And this is due, and some of you may have read about Whole Foods being bought out by Amazon. And so, again, I think and they're not going to be hiring as many people because of technology. So this is a real concern in the direction our country is going. We need to provide jobs for people and the training and the skills. I also learned about a program for coal miners, and the state sponsored a program to teach them how to code, computer coding. And so you have coal miners who are now coders. That's the kind of thing we need to be doing on a national scale. And again, I go back to renewable energy jobs and training people for the future in wind and solar. So we're losing jobs because of technology, primarily. And that's an issue that I will stay on top of, and I'm always looking out for opportunities to provide jobs, the training, and again, partnering with businesses and communities that need certain skills so that people in that community can acquire those skills and find a way to support their families and contribute to society.
Thank you. Now we're going to move to the topic of criminal justice, and we're going to start with Victor with this question. We all know that gun violence in this country is out of control, and especially here in parts of Illinois. Do you believe that the regulation of guns and gun ownership in the country is appropriate now, or would you change it, and if so, how?
First of all, let me start off by saying my grandfather was director of conservation under Governor Stratton in Illinois in the 1950s. He was a hunter. My grandmother hunted. My family still hunts today. I have no problem with hunting, using guns for hunting. I do have problems with the gun control system as it is today. And I would like to strengthen the gun control system as we have it today, but I don't know if we can do that with the current legislative body that we have. I think that after you saw 20 children being shot in Newtown, Connecticut, and nothing happened, I think that we lost part of that war, a large majority of that war. There are a number of things I'd like to see. You know, we have some of those in force in Illinois, but that doesn't really help us because we have Indiana. So nationally, what I think we can do at this point in time is stand up and fight the NRA as much as we can, as strong as we can, and start working with groups like Everytown USA and start educating the entire United States and start doing programs like that, because those kind of programs are going to educate more people in society, and they're going to start using the program of Everytown USA to have locks on their guns, to teach children not to play with weapons, and to have parents make sure that every time a kid, one of my children goes over to another kid's house, I'm on the phone and I ask, is there an unlocked weapon in the house? And that's one of the things that Everytown pushes. And that's something that we can do. There are many other things that I'd like to see done, but I'm also pragmatic and realistic. That doesn't mean that I wouldn't fight for them. But I think that as soon as we had 20 children die in Newtown, Connecticut, and did nothing, we surrendered a little bit.
Jim?
We should not be putting weapons of war into the hands of our citizens. We have to combat any and all violence wherever we can. I would call for a ban on assault weapons, reduce the size of magazines. I would call for expanding background checks, close gun show loopholes, things of that nature. You know, part of our gun problem or gun violence kind of goes hand in hand with our war on drugs, in my opinion. I'm an advocate for the legalization of marijuana and the manufacturing of industrial hemp. Our Constitution was written on hemp paper, and it would bring back a lot of our textile jobs and those factories that have been shuttered for the last 25, 30 years. The violence that happens because, I'll just talk about marijuana. That doesn't come from the ingestion of the drug, it comes from the purchase and procurement of the drug, in my opinion. And I would be an advocate for the legalization of marijuana, again. The only thing that our war on drugs has been successful in doing is creating a states full of felons. It's a form of voter suppression, the war on drugs. When these inmates become felons, they cannot vote in a lot of states. So it's a multi-pronged issue in my mind. Thank you.
Jennifer? You're up.
The question posed was about
Microphone.
the question posed was about gun reform, right?
It was.
Okay, great. So I am unwilling to surrender on the gun reform issue. The NRA has absolutely co-opted that discussion, and I think it is incumbent on all of us to talk to all of our friends, no matter their political affiliation, and get them to start speaking to their representatives and start calling out their congresspeople who are taking the NRA money and thoughtlessly refusing to implement gun reform. It's wrong. People who own guns understand that reasonable restrictions on gun ownership do not impinge upon their rights at all. This is a group, gun owners, people who hunt, people who want to own handguns for protection. We can craft reasonable legislation, reasonable reform. This is a group who has a Second Amendment protection. The NRA is only a lobbyist for the industry. And gun owners need to start saying that, need to start saying, we disagree with the NRA. We want change. It is abhorrent to me that we can watch these deaths in America and still accept that people say, you know, we're praying for these families. We need to do so much more. We can't just accept the prayers. We need to go beyond the prayers, and we have to keep acting on this issue. It is an embarrassment to us as a nation When I taught in some Central European countries for a few weeks here and there, and when people ask me about guns in America, you can see that they are astonished that we're a civilized nation with the level of guns and gun crimes in our country. We need to fix it.
Kelly?
Well, the NRA is one of the most powerful lobbying groups in the country, so it's very challenging to tighten our gun laws. But I want to tell you two things. One, that one of the indicators of gun violence is somebody who's been guilty of domestic abuse. So one thing I'd like to see changed is that if somebody is found guilty of this, they can no longer have access to guns. I was also appalled to learn, thank you. Last February, something happened that snuck under the radar. I don't know if any of you know it, but the Obama administration put in place a legislation or a law that if you get Social Security benefits but are not able to handle your finances on your own due to mental health issues, that you would automatically be investigated to make sure and checked, have a background check done so that you can't own a gun, or to make sure that you're okay to have a gun. So what happened in February is the Republican Party, under the radar, when we're paying attention to our illustrious president, rescinded this legislation. They're the ones that always talk about when a mass catastrophe happens or a mass shooting, oh, it's mental illness, it's mental illness. Well, lo and behold, they took away this safety check for people with mental illness that allowed us to keep guns out of their hands. So this is appalling to me. We have to keep our eye on the ball and make sure that bills like this don't happen again, that we're weakening our gun laws. But it's a tough issue right now. I don't want to see assault rifles in the hands of anyone. They were developed for our military special ops. There's no reason a regular citizen on the street needs to own an assault rifle. And I again would like to, as said before, I'd like to see the rounds of magazines limited to. So I'm all for stronger background checks, but we've got to keep our eye on the ball and keep pushing on our legislators.
Amanda?
Well, there's no question that the NRA has completely hijacked the Second Amendment. The way that it was written is not the way that it's interpreted now. I have a family of hunters in Michigan with my sister and brother-in-law and my nephew. There's absolutely no need that they need to have any kind of automatic weapon or a large magazine rifle to shoot a deer or to go out and hunt a quail. It's ridiculous. And when you've got a mindset in Washington, D.C., like we just saw within the last week and a half, where a congressman gets shot at a softball game, again, mental illness came into play, but his compatriot in Congress says, well, I'm going to start carrying a gun now everywhere I go. The more you escalate the situation, the more you're going to continue to have a problem. And we're the only industrialized country on the face of the earth that allows people to have guns privately the way that we have guns. We need better regulations, we need better training, we need background checks, we need to make sure that people with mental illness or people with abuse issues don't have access to guns. It's absolutely ridiculous that we don't have civilized restrictions on some of this. It's not you just get a gun and go out willy-nilly and shoot whomever you want to shoot. Even our generals in Washington, D.C. and in the military have said that we're much better off putting our money into humanitarian and diplomacy issues to help people where they need help, because then you don't have to spend as much on the bullets and the guns to protect yourself. So we as a society need to start looking at what we're doing that's leaving this population out there that feels that it absolutely has to have a gun for some reason, when there really is no reason. We should be finding productive things to do and ways to help society grow.
Thank you. So we've come full circle. I'm going to give this question to start off with Jennifer. It's on the environment. Should the government subsidize renewable energy production? Would a focus on this hurt or help the U.S. economy, and how should it be funded, if so?
I am hard pressed. I am hard pressed to understand where we would place the subsidies in the renewable energy industry right now. That industry is doing well. I think we need to remove the subsidies from the oil and gas industry. So I'd like to, and this is an area where we can step up and again rebut that Republican stereotype that we want to put government money behind everything. This is an industry that I think is able now to stand on its own feet. They're hiring, companies are becoming profitable. If we want to talk about maybe subsidizing homeowners who are trying to make their homes more energy efficient, I would consider that. But I think it's the flip side in removing the subsidies from the fossil fuel industry that we really need to look at.
Kelly.
Well, I talked about this earlier, so I'm going to, again, renewable energy is the way to go in the future. Illinois, believe it or not, with so many things so wrong with our state, that is the one thing we're doing right. And as I said before, I'm on the Illinois Environmental Council, and the executive director of the Illinois Environmental Council is one of the main people responsible for passing the Future Energy Jobs Act. And again, I say we need to work in this direction at the national level. Somebody I worked on with the Obama campaign has now started his own solar company here in Illinois. He's going to be providing jobs for people. When businesses or people thinking of starting a business know that a state, or in this case, the federal government, is committed to clean energy, the jobs will start coming and companies will start forming in this industry. And they will also provide the training. So I absolutely think this is the way to go in the future. So there you go. Thanks.
Amanda.
Well, I grew up in the automotive industry in Detroit with both my mother and stepfather working for one for Ford, one for GM. Obviously, some great conversations at the dinner table when they didn't agree. The oil industry and the fossil fuel industry has had a chokehold on our society for a long, long time. We had the ability to produce energy efficient cars, electric cars, many, 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 many years ago, and yet the lobby from the oil and fossil fuel industry prevented Detroit from developing that. We're finally seeing it now come to fruition. And the oil industry is making its chokehold tighter now because what's happening is it's now cheaper for some of our sources of renewable energy than it is for oil and gas. And so they're getting nervous because they're losing what they feel is their rightful place. The only way for us to move forward, I believe, is to continue to move to alternative sources of energy, renewable energy. We're far behind what other countries in the world are doing. Sweden has a wind power, solar energy base that is just unbelievable. Other countries in Europe are also basing a lot of their work on renewable energy. That's the path we need to go. We need to move that way. The costs continue to come down. We actually at College of Lake County saw some of this coming down the pike, and in the last 2 years put in a geothermal field on our Grays Lake campus that came online 1.5 years ago, and that's bringing down our energy costs, and over the long run, what was spent on it will far outweigh the savings that we're going to have.
Victor.
So when the Kentucky Coal Museum starts to use solar energy for their entire source, you kind of know that you're on the right track there. The federal government already does subsidize renewable energy. There's a man in Elgin. I went to the Fox Valley Sustainability Network. His name's Ken Buckman. He owns Rainey Investments. And he bought a huge building there. And with the Illinois the new Illinois bill that was passed and the federal subsidy, the 30% tax credit that they get, he's going to make his money back within 2 years. And then he's going to be able to sell that money, or it's not sell that money, sell that energy, excuse me, that solar energy as just icing on the cake. So what Jennifer said about subsidizing renewable energy is important, and we need to do that. We need to continue to do that, but we need to do it also for individuals like me and individuals like you. I would love to have solar energy on my house, but it's too expensive for me to do it independently. So we need to have tax credits, larger tax credits for individuals to put solar energy or renewable energy into their homes, as well as continuing to use the federal solar investment tax credit, which gives a 30% tax credit to anyone who invests in solar energy.
Jim?
Had we only listened to Jimmy Carter. You know, we had solar panels on the White House until Ronald Reagan became president. The economies of scale that we could be achieving right now had we not put all our eggs in the oil basket, so to speak. Corporate profits in the oil industry are at an all-time high. They internalize all the profits, they socialize all the cost because of the health issues. And that has to stop. Our #1 export is refined petroleum products. It's ridiculous. One thing that isn't talked about regarding the oil industry, we as taxpayers subsidize the safety of the oil rigs coming back from the Middle East because our military provides them with safe haven. That's one thing we don't ever talk about. We misuse our military in so many different ways. And any increase, I know it's not part of the question, but any increase in our military budget, a lot more of that money needs to go to our veterans and not into the pockets of the executives of the military-industrial complex and the oil companies. We have to wean ourselves off of our use of fossil fuels, as I mentioned earlier, and we need to incentivize the use of renewable energies whenever we can. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. At this time in the program, we're going to shift from policy questions to giving you guys a chance to tell us about your campaigns, where you're at, where you want to go, the hurdles that you're coming across, and what you need from us to help you run a successful campaign. So I'm going to start with Jim on this side.
Before I answer that real quick, I noticed there was a couple other questions about women's right to choose. If I can just address that really quick.
Wait, hold on one second. We're limited to 5 minutes, so how you want to use your 5 minutes is up to you, Jim.
It's amazing to me how people in Washington who are older, whiter, and male, people that are stale, pale, and male, decide what women should decide to do with their own body. That's disgusting to me. The last campaign, other than being married to my wife for 31 years and having 2 great kids, running for congressional office was the greatest experience of my life. I met so many people I was heartened by, so many people that I spoke with throughout the district. The one thing that I know now that I didn't know before, or I didn't realize it as much, you know, we have family and friends, we all do, that are members of the opposite party. You know, we can't always choose our family members, but we certainly do choose our friends. We choose our friends because we have the same values as each other, all right? There is so much area of agreement, so much low-hanging fruit. What if disease knows no political stripe, bad luck knows no political stripe? What I learned from the campaign is that we need to reach out to our friends, even if we don't always agree with them. My wife and I have been married for 31 years. We've agreed to disagree a little bit along the way. And we have to reach out to the people across the aisle. If I have the good fortune of gaining your confidence, getting past the primary next March, I'm going to reach out to members of the opposite party. I've worked with members of the opposite party up until now. Actually, the solar project up in up in Lake County is one example. I was asked to run for public office 2 years ago. Somebody asked me to run for Lake County Board. I didn't want to run against that board member because he's done nothing but good things for the county. I don't care that he's a Republican. He's one of the very few Eisenhower Republicans that I think I know. I can deal with them. So, you know, as far as campaign finance, you know, the last special election down in Georgia, John Ossoff, right? $23 million for his campaign. He got 125,000 votes, 126,000 votes on $23 million. I was fortunate enough to gain your trust last election cycle to run against Randy Hultgren. On $20,000, I got 138,000 votes. Less than 1% of what John Ossoff raised. So I was not going to, I knew that I would be outspent, but I was not going to allow myself to be out-hustled. For those of you that are in the 14th district, I promise you I will hustle my behind off, just like I did last time. There is so much at stake. We have to get money out of politics. We have to go for public financing of elections. But until then, I'm going to work my butt off. I'm going to hustle, go to every corner of this district, just as I did before. I knocked on just under 10,000 doors myself. Massive district, okay? We are all in this together. Thank you so much.
Victor.
Didn't know which way we were going.
You know, I tried to make it fair, and I just messed it all up. I'm sorry.
I thought we always go left.
That's true. To me, left is that way.
So, I got into this race. I took students to Washington, D.C. for the inauguration. Collective sigh? No? Okay. It wasn't. I was there. And in order to do that, you had to sign up a year and a half in advance, and so I did. And there was no turning back the day after the election, because there was no refund. And because I work at a school that's 40% low income, I had to spend $1,000 of my own money to see Donald Trump get inaugurated. I still go to counseling to say that sentence. I've gotten really far. The next day we went to the Women's March, and it was a completely different atmosphere. Yeah. I had a student that was crying at the inauguration by the lack of decorum of the Republicans, those that supported Trump. And the next day, there was no crying. There were tears of joy, and it was wonderful. It was a great experience, and I would not give it away for anything. I came back, like many of you, many of these people up here, I'm sure, looked at Facebook. I'm going to join this group. I'm going to join that group. And I'm going to like the heck out of this. And then I'm going to angrily tweet at Donald Trump. And he's going to ignore me or block me. Well, that didn't happen. And then I thought, as I said earlier, silence is an agreement. And as Randy Hultgren became more and more silent, I became more and more enraged. And I felt I had to do more and more. And so I started to talk to some political people in the arena. Some people who have run races before, some people who work on campaigns for different elected officials already. And every single one of them told me the exact same thing. They said, you can't do it. And I said, why not? I'm 25 years old, I'm over 25. I've been a citizen for 7 years. Do you know the last one, Mr. Verda? A U.S. citizen, yeah. I live in the state. I can run. And they said, no, you don't have the time to make the phone calls to get the money because you have a real job. And you're laughing at that, but I laughed at that too because that was the first time I was ever told as a teacher that I had a real job. And so I thought about it for a week, And I went back to the first guy who told me no, and I said, I'm going to hire you, and we're going to run. We're going to make a difference. We're going to give the people of the 14th District a good choice, because good choice is key to democracy. And whether Mr. Walz or I or anyone else who enters this race for the right reasons earns your vote, thank you. And we're going to work hard for the 14th District and for the citizens of the 14th District, especially those that are the most vulnerable, the children and the elderly. Those are the people that need to be taken care of because they've taken care of us. And if we don't take care of the children, then we're going to have more problems down the road. So that's why I'm running. That's a little story of why I got into the race. Thank you for having me this evening. I appreciate your time.
Amanda.
First, I want to thank everybody for showing up tonight. I think it's wonderful. I have seen such a groundswell of people enthusiastic. I think we finally realized that you can't sit home. It's like President Obama said, if you want to see something happen, then get out there and make it happen. Make change. Go be active. Get involved. And I think that's what we all need. I'm running for this office a second time because the first time I did pretty well with no help whatsoever. And I know the first time, based on Peter Roskam's behavior, that he was concerned and he didn't want to be seen in public with me, didn't want to talk to me, didn't attend any forums that I was at, would not put himself in a situation like this where he could talk to people. And I found out after watching what was going on that he was vulnerable, and he is vulnerable. And this time around, because of all the seeds that we planted last time, I know that there is a good shot to take him out. I've been passionate about public service my entire life. I started out teaching emotionally disturbed and behavior disordered students right over here in Crystal Lake at what used to be North Junior High. It's now Bernotis Junior High. And just as an aside, as I'm out talking to people and knocking on doors when they hear I taught emotionally disturbed and behavior disordered students, they tell me it's the perfect job for Congress. So I've heard that many, many times. But from there I went into educational administration because I wanted to help students, I wanted to help education. I learned to love the law while I was training to be an administrator and got into law because, again, I wanted to help people. And I wanted to be involved in dealing with ethical issues and discrimination and civil rights. And what I do mostly now is mediate. And that means I have to bring people together from both sides of the aisle, not only in my job as an attorney, but in my job as a trustee at the College of Lake County. I have, and believe me, we're not a board, we're a board divided. We've got some issues, but you've got to work and bring people together. We're more alike than we are different. I firmly believe that, and I believe that somehow all of us have to energize that and get us back to the position where we're able to sit down and talk to each other and agree to disagree civilly. We don't need to have the far, far right or the far, far left dictating what's good for the majority, because there's so much that we can do together. There's a saying out there that together, ordinary people can do extraordinary things, and I truly believe that, and I believe that working together, we can get back to a situation where we can improve health care, we can make education affordable for all, we can build up our middle class, we can bring new jobs in and train people for jobs that are already here, we can grow our economy. All of those things are possible, but it takes working together instead of arguing with each other or refusing, like they do in Washington, to even talk to each other. How many years did the Republicans refuse to even discuss the Affordable Care Act with Obama? So many changes could have been made to that already that were beneficial, but they refused to even talk about it. It's time to move beyond that. And that's why I'm running, because I think that I can go to Washington, and no, I know that I can go to Washington, and I can be the person that can talk to people on both sides of the aisle and work for a coalition. Thank you.
Kelly?
I originally got involved in politics when my kids were toddlers and they were going to build a mall at Rand and Old McHenry Road. And people in my community were really upset about it and didn't want it. And at that moment, it was one of those small decisions you make that end up changing the trajectory of your life and you don't even realize it. But I decided to apply to get on the zoning board in North Barrington. And from that point on, I've always been involved in my community and cared what happened in my community and met with my neighbors to know what's on their minds and what their concerns and worries are. I will do the same as your representative. I've done that for 20 years in the Barrington area. I will do the same for you. This is going to be a tough race against Peter Roskam, and we really haven't gone into talking about campaigns as Nancy had asked us to do, but it's going to be an expensive race. Make no mistake about it. So we also need to keep people activated. You guys are doing a terrific job out there in keeping pressure on these incumbents, these Republican incumbents. So I encourage you to keep taking action, keep calling, keep writing letters, go to protests, just keep the pressure on. We have to take back the House in Washington, D.C. One of the things we haven't talked about tonight is the Supreme Court. And we need to have a say in this. One of the questions, is about campaign finance reform. Citizens United has changed this whole trajectory. All of us have to spend so much time raising money because of this. And also, if we get a Republican Supreme Court, they might allow tax-exempt religious organizations to start donating. That would be awful too. So I don't mean to be Debbie Downer here, but I just think these are things that we need to keep on the forefront of our minds and stay aware and keep doing the great job you're doing. I hope that I can earn your support. Again, my healthcare story has resonated. I was interviewed by all 5 Chicago TV stations and was featured on the front page of the New York Times because my healthcare story as a candidate is unique, and my daughter's situation is unique, and it resonates with people. But my story as a candidate is unique, but as people in this room know, my story is like everybody's story in terms of fear and making sure that you have affordable, accessible health care. So that is one of the cornerstones of my campaign. I hope I can earn your support. Check out my Facebook page, my website, social media, all that stuff. We can always use volunteers. I'm marching in parades on the 4th of July. You can sign up to help, but we will need volunteers. Come this September after Labor Day, you're probably going to have to decide who you want to get behind, because then we're going to have to get petition signatures to get our names on the ballot, and we're going to need a lot of help. There's many things coming down the pike here where volunteers will be necessary. So think hard about tonight, think about which person you want to support, gather facts, do your homework, and I hope I can be the candidate you'll back. Thank you.
Jennifer.
So I'm a first-time runner, and people have raised an eyebrow sometimes, but I am not going to be deterred by what has become an industry. I'm running to win. I want to run once and win. I want to do the job for the people in this district. I am always enthused about going out and helping my community. I want to help my community as a citizen, as I said before, as someone who works hard, as someone who knows how the law works, how it affects people and businesses. This campaign is going to be terrific for the 6th District. The 6th District has been quiet because the Republicans have really been the loudest voices. We are now rising up and talking about the issues. We're able to see that we have neighbors who are Democrats. It's no longer viewed as a conservative district. It is a moderate district. We are going to pull votes from the middle. We've got to take an 8-point swing back, right? Even though we've got good indicators, this race is going to be close. It's going to be close in the primary. It's going to be extremely close in the general. We cannot be under any illusions. We've got to not let up at any turn. So as a candidate, I have not even formally rolled out my campaign. My manager onboarded a couple weeks ago. I'm thrilled with the progress we've made already. And we are ready to get our volunteers out. We are absolutely the same as Amanda and Kelly. We're looking for people who want to join us. We've got a lot of groups who are talking to voters about the issues, and no matter who you are behind, we want to make sure that we're getting people registered and that we get them out to vote. It is important that they show up in March, and then they really, really show up in November. I'm also going to give you a plug that our governor's race is vital for both the census purposes and then districting. It's a big issue, so we have to remind people that every level of government this time is extremely important. So I want to go out, I want to work hard and gain your support, let you know what I stand for, have you understand my background and how meaningful this is to me as a citizen, as someone who wants to go and do the job for you. And thank you very much for having me here tonight.
So this concludes the panel part of our program. Hold on, excuse me, talking all day. And I personally want to thank everybody that came out today to learn more about the candidates and the candidates themselves. I, for one, am extremely excited at the number of fantastic Democratic candidates that we have out there at all levels of government.